Hi folks, Harry Frank from Red Giant here, and in this tutorial I'd like to show you Knoll Light Transition from Red Giant Universe. Simply put, Knoll Light Transition is a highly customizable lens flare transition effect. Let me apply this to a new set of clips here and show you the available parameters. In my effects, I'll go to Video Transitions, Universe Transitions, locate Knoll Light Transition, and drop this on a cut point. Make sure you have extra media on the tail of the A clip and the head of the B clip to make an overlapping transition. What this plugin does is render a lens flare that travels from one point to another. As it travels, it creates a transition from the A clip to the B clip. By default, this is a soft linear wipe, but this can also be a dissolve. So let me select this transition and show you the available parameters in the effect controls. The first parameter defines the lens flare that is being rendered during the transition. Below that, we have the transition preset. This is a set of commonly used animation paths that you can use for your starting and ending points of your lens flare. For example, the default diagonal sweep goes from the top left to the bottom right. The next one's called center flash. This will keep the flare actually centered in the frame and create a bright flare flash as your footage performs a dissolve in the background. Or left to right is a simple horizontal left to right transition. Now, one thing to note, this transition preset menu might be missing from your own version of Knoll Light Transition, depending on your host app. There are some compatibility constraints that have limited this preset menu from certain host apps. Now, to customize these even further, let's dive into the interface down here. The first way to customize the animation path is to change the path angle and path width. This is best shown by turning on the wireframe preview checkbox right here. You'll see that there is a green circle where the flare is going to start and a red circle where the flare is going to end. The large white circle in the center is the actual position of the flare. Now, the path angle controls the travel path relative to the horizontal line. So a path angle of 0 means a left to right horizontal line. If I turn this up to 90 degrees, you will see a top to bottom transition. So you can freely adjust this path angle to change the travel path of the flare. Now, by default, notice that the start and end points are locked to the edges of the frame. This is the path width. A value of 1 means that the flare will always start and end at the edges of the frame. A value less than 1 will bring the start and end points inside the frame. And a value above 1 will push the start and end points outside of the frame. Notice as I change this path angle that a soft linear wipe is happening in the background, and the angle of that wipe is directly matched to the angle of the flare transition. You can change this to a dissolve if you'd like, simply by selecting the dissolve transition right here in this pop-up menu. And you can also adjust the softness of the wipe by adjusting the wipe feather percentage right here. Now, next I'd like to talk a little bit more detail about controlling the scale and brightness of your lens flare. Now, what's going on here as it travels along this path is that it flares up from a 0 brightness to a brightness maximum value, which is the brightness max control right here. And it'll travel along and then fade back down to 0. The brightness ramp right here controls the amount of time it takes to ramp up from its minimum value to its maximum value. So to go from 0 to its maximum brightness, this will take 25% of the transition, and then to fade back down to 0, this will happen in the last 25%. So if you'd like to widen the amount of time and sort of smooth out that ramp a little bit, you can go in here and turn up the brightness ramp. This will take a longer amount of time for it to flare up to its brightest value. The independent scale and brightness controls are added because different lens flare presets all behave differently. Sometimes you don't necessarily want to make the elements brighter, but you perhaps want to just make them larger. So in this case, I think a larger scale works better than simply turning up the brightness. And in fact, if you would like it to simply fade up from its 0 brightness, but actually keep a scale minimum of, let's say, 1, you can do that. So it's not actually going to scale the elements down as it fades. So notice the flare presets are actually staying fairly large and not scaling down to 0. They are simply ramping up in terms of their brightness. The default control of using the path, angle, and width to define the animation points for your flare was really designed to be a very easy and quick way to set up an animated path for your flare. Everything is automated. You're just defining an angle and how far you'd like it to travel. But let's say you need a very specific start and end point. Let's say we want to bring on a logo using a lens flare. Now, this might be a bit cumbersome using the path, angle, and path width because really you just want very specific start and end points. So in those cases where you need a very specific start and end point, we can go over here and check manual in and out points. So let me drop this Knoll light transition over here on a sample clip where I am going to simply bring on a logo. Now we see the default setting where it's using the diagonal left to right. I'm going to select this transition, go into manual path, and check manual in and out points. Now let me check the wireframe preview. And luckily, by default, the start and end points are pretty much where I need them. I'm going to bring this endpoint over just a little bit. So as I play through this, we can see that we have a flare starting on the left side of logo and traveling across and revealing this logo. So I'll uncheck wireframe preview. I'll pick a different preset here. So that wraps it up for Knoll light transition. Many thanks to our friends at Dissolve.com for use of their incredible stock footage library. My name's Harry Frank. Thank you so much for watching.